Hi there, fifth grade families. I hope that this video finds you well and healthy and safe. So thank you so much for accessing my YouTube channel and accessing this video. So I want to kind of give you a breakdown as to what to expect from this video. This will be unlike my other videos because I'm kind of cramming an entire chapter into one video opposed to just one skill from a chapter into a video. So I want to kind of give you a breakdown as to what to expect for this 2-week period for math instruction. So inside your child's packet or your group of materials that we sent home with you guys, it kind of gives you a breakdown of what each day is going to look like for you at your house or wherever you may be. So day one, so we have the day and the date. Now, as of right now, we are going to be out for 2 weeks, so we have provided you with work for 2 weeks for reading, writing, and for math. But since you're here on YouTube, it means you're here for some math. So what every day is going to look like is you'll start with doing one problem of the day. That's also in your packet of supplies, and then you'll do some work in your Go Math book, and we tell you what page and what numbers to do, and that corresponds somewhat with the worksheets we've also provided you as well. Now those worksheets are going to be what I'm about to teach you and some review from chapter 7, like turning improper fractions into mixed numbers, multiplying two fractions, possibly some dividing fractions as well. So this is for 8 days of instruction. So thanks so much for visiting me here. The purpose of this video is to just give you like an overview of some strategies that you could use while you're doing all of this work. Now here's the tricky thing, is that we haven't begun teaching chapter 8. All of 5th grade at Carroll Hill, we just finished chapter 7, multiplying fractions. So everything that we have sent home to you and everything you'll see on this video is all brand new. We have not taught this yet. So I want to kind of just start at something very basic and kind of grow on from there, okay? So I'm going to just peel off all of these things really quick, and we'll start from kind of like the beginning, okay? So like square one, let's say, okay? Okay. Let me scooch this in nice and tight for us. All right, guys, so what I really want 5th graders to understand is that fractions are related to division. How so, do you ask? Well, let's say you have the fraction 3/4. In order to find the value of what 3/4 means, you would do 3 divided by 4. Think of that fraction bar as like a division line, kind of prompting you and signaling to you that that is some division that you'll have to do. Same thing if you find a fraction like 12/2. Really what that's saying is 12 divided by 6. I use this all the time, so do all other teachers when we are grading your work, for example. Let's say on a test, you got 9 out of 10 questions correct, or 9/10 of the test was correct. So we'll divide that 9 by 10, and then we'll multiply by 100 for a percentage purpose, and that would be your score or your grade. All right, so even teachers, we use or we understand this concept that fractions are indeed related to division, okay? So with that being said, keeping in mind that fractions are related to division, I want to have you kind of do some thinking here, okay? So the reason why fractions are related to division is in case you have some kind of issue or problem that kind of shares this information with you, that 3 students equally split 2 pieces of construction paper. So you could use a model to kind of visualize what this work or what this thinking process is. So if I have two pieces of construction paper and I need to split them between three people, I'm not going to say, here, you take one and you take one, and the third person, sorry, you get none. We want to equally split it. So what we'll do is we will take each piece of construction paper and we'll cut it into thirds. Why thirds? Because there's 3 students who need construction paper. So what you'll do is you'll count the number of thirds each student will get, and each student will be getting 2 of the thirds, right? So one student will get 2 thirds, another student will get 2 thirds, and the third student will get 2 thirds. So if we were to break that up, we'd say, okay, there's one group or one student, here's another student, and a third student, right? So what that really is showing us is that 2 students will get 1/3 each. So 2 times 1/3, this is multiplication of fractions review. We know that 2 times 1 is 2. Denominator will stay the same. So if I have 2 pieces of construction paper to split between 3 students, every student would get 2/3 of that work, right? Okay. So let's just keep that in mind, that fractions are related to division, okay? With that being said, I want to do a couple of real-world examples with you, and these kind of examples are what you'll be seeing in your Go Math book, as well as the worksheets that we've sent home with you as well, okay? All right, so here is a real-world example, okay? Let's say 3 friends share a 1/4 pound package of Skittles equally, okay? So I want to show you what I did here. All right, so what I did here was I used a model, and my students know that I'm a really visual learner, so I need to have those kind of visuals. So I decided to draw a model, and I thought about, okay, well, 1/4 of a pound, 1/4 of a pound, right? So I have my 1 whole entire pound. And actually, just so this information isn't too overwhelming, let me kind of start with the basics, right? All right, so I have 1/4 pound of a bag of Skittles that I need to split, right? So if I think, okay, well, 1/4 of a pound, so this whole thing will represent 1 pound, right? So I have 1/4 of a pound of a bag of Skittles, okay, and we know that 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 would get me 1 whole pound, right? But we're not focusing on the other pounds. We're just focusing on this 1/4 pound, right? So I need to split that 1/4 of a pound between 3 friends, okay? So if I was to split this between 3 friends, one friend will get that much, another friend will get this much, and the third friend will get this much. So if I continue that trend with the rest of the pound, let's just say, right, if we had 1 whole pound to split with 3 friends, all right, but I'm really only looking at this section right here because the bag is only 1/4, okay? So how much would each friend get? Well, if we look at this entire model, this technically is 1/12. This technically is 1/12. This technically is 1/12, right? If we were to split that entire model between 3 friends. All right, so really what I'm asking to do is to find not just splitting 1/4 amongst 3 friends, but also what I'm really looking at in this section is each one of my friends is going to be getting 1/3, right? So I cut this 1/4 into thirds. All right, so now we're left with 1/4 times 1/3. And as you remember from last chapter, multiply the numerators and the denominators. So if I split this 1/4 with 3 friends, each person will be getting a 1/12. Whew, Mrs. Bowers, this is a lot of new information. This seems a little overwhelming. I understand. So let's try another one, because I tell my students all the time, practice makes permanent. So the more we practice, the more permanent these skills will become ingrained in us, right? So now I want you to kind of try on your own. I'll give you a minute and then I'll catch up to you. So Brad has 9 pounds of ground turkey to make burgers. How many 1/3 pound burgers can he make? All right. So I'm thinking I'm going to use a model to help me with this. All right, so Brad has 9 pounds. All right, so I'll start drawing my model using 9 groups, right? 9 pounds. Okay, 9, right? Here are my models representing 9 pounds. Each is 1 pound, right? So I have 9 total. And with each pound, he wants to make as many 1/3 pound burgers as he can. So I'm going to cut these into thirds. Each third is going to be a burger that he's going to make. Okay, so each third is going to be 1 burger that he's going to make. So I'm just going to count up. All right, so he can make 3 burgers from this pound. He can make 3 burgers from this pound. So I'm going to skip count by 3s. So you need to know your multiples of 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27. So he's going to be able to make 27 burgers. All right, Mrs. Bowers, this is all fine and dandy, but do I really need to draw all these models and all these dashes? No, you don't. What you can do is you can use this strategy, and parents, this strategy is going to sound really familiar to you because we were taught this in school ourselves. So you'll be able to really help students, okay? So this strategy is called keep, flip, change, okay? It might sound familiar from the 4th grade, but this is to kind of move away from having to draw models and draw pictures and just using this straight up strategy of keep, flip, change. What this means is when you have a division equation or expression, okay, with a fraction involved with this division, what you're going to do is you're going to keep the first factor. In this case, the first factor is 1/4. We're going to keep that, meaning keep it the same, don't do anything to it. It's still always going to be 1/4. All right, so I'm going to keep my 1/4. Next, flip. Mrs. Bowers, what do you mean by flip? When I say flip, I mean you are literally flipping to the inverse operation. What that means is whatever the opposite of an operation is, you're going to do the opposite. So the opposite of division is multiplication. So when I say flip, you're going to flip the division sign to a multiplication sign, okay? And the third part, this is change. What do you mean by change? When I say change, that means you need to find the reciprocal of that number. Reciprocal is a very fancy schmancy word for flipping the numerator and the denominator. So 3 will be changed to find the reciprocal, which is 1/3. Mrs. Bowers, where'd you get that 1 from? Great question. When you have a whole number Imagine that whole number is the numerator and 1 is the denominator. Okay, so whenever there's a whole number, the whole number could be a bazillion and 32. Whatever the numerator is, as long as it's a whole number, that's the numerator, and the denominator will always be 1. So when I tell you to change this second factor, this 3, imagine it, since it's a whole number, over the number 1. So when you flip 3 over 1, it becomes 1 over 3. Let's try this with a couple examples. Okay. So in your Go Math book, you might come across a problem that says something like 9 divided by 1/3, or 1/2 divided by 6. Well, let's try 9 divided by 1/3 first. We're going to use this strategy to keep flip change. So keep my 9, flip my division to multiplication, and then change my second factor. So it's no longer 1 over 3, now it's going to be 3 over 1, or just 3, because when the denominator is a 1, it's a whole number. So we know 9 times 3 is 27. So kind of like the problem that we just did with Brad and his turkey burgers. We first drew a model, and then after that model, we found out he could make 27 burgers out of those 9 pounds. Now, instead of doing all of those models in the drawing and the counting up, you could just do the keep, flip, change strategy. Let's try another one, which is 1/2 divided by 6. All right, so we'll do the same strategy, keep, flip, change. So we're going to keep the first factor, which is 1/2. We're going to flip the division sign to multiplication. And then we're going to change the 6. Now, since 6 is a whole number, we can imagine that as 6 over 1. So when we change it, it'll now become 1 over 6. And this is going to be a review from last chapter. When you multiply fractions, you multiply the numerators and then the denominators, okay? So let's say, for example, let's go into your Go Math book. I'll do a couple examples from your Go Math book using this keep, flip, change strategy. Let's say, for example, let's go to page 515, okay? Page 515 is the work you'll be doing on day 4. And I'll kind of get you a little ahead of the game, right? Okay, so on page 515, they already did number 1 for you. Oh, so nice of them. Let's do number 2 together. Number 2 wants us to take 1/5 and divide it 3 times. Oops, let me turn it a little bit. Oops, here's hello. There we go. So if we use this strategy, keep, flip, change, we're going to keep the first factor, which is 1/5. We're going to flip the division sign to multiplication, and then we're going to change the second factor. So since this is a whole number, let's picture it over the number 1. So when we flip it, it's going to be 1 over 3. And we know from last chapter, when you multiply 2 fractions, you multiply the numerators, then the denominators. Boom, there is your final answer. Let's try one more from that page. All right, page 515, number 3. They want us to do 2 and divide it by 1/8. Let's use the keep, flip, change strategy. We'll keep, we'll flip, and we'll change. 8 over 1 is just like saying 8, the whole number. So now it's just a basic math fact. 2 times 8 is 16. Okay? Let's go to a different page. Let's work out, let's go to page 515. I'm sorry, no. Actually, no, let's go to page 507. I want to hit on this before I conclude my video, okay? All right, so on page 507, we have some number sentences that we need to solve. So, like I taught you, we need to relate fractions to division, right? So let's look at number 3, for example, on page 507, right? On page 507, number 3, it says 8 friends share 12 burritos equally. How many burritos does each friend get? That's so nice to share. So if we got 12 burritos, we need to split it with 8 people. Remember when I told you that we can relate fractions to division? So 12 divided by 8 would be like this fraction, 12/8, right? Now this is going to be some more review from chapter 7, multiplying fractions, because whenever we have an improper fraction, that means that the numerator is greater than the denominator. So we could use long division to turn this improper fraction into a mixed number, right? So we know 8 times 1 is 8, and my remainder is going to be 4. So 12/8 rewritten as a whole number is 1, that's my quotient, 4 was my remainder, and 8 is the divisor. Okay, so you'll be doing some of this work too. And let's look at, we have you guys doing, let's go to page 509. That's the mid-chapter checkpoint. You know, just for kicks and giggles, let's do number 2 on page 509. Number 2 on page 509 is asking you to do 3 divided by 1/2. Let's do that strategy of keep, flip, change. So let's keep the 3, let's flip the operation, and let's change the second factor from 1/2 to 2/1. But because we know that whole numbers have a denominator of 1, it'll just be 3 times 2, which is a straight up basic fact. 3 times 2 is 6. Whew. All right, guys. I just crammed an entire chapter into 20 minutes. I hope that this helps you guys. And hopefully you guys can remain healthy and safe. And we will see you guys in 2 weeks. And if we do not see you in 2 weeks, then keep an eye out for any more assignments to be sent home, any more videos on my channel. For those of you who have subscribed to Mrs. Bauer's YouTube channel, you'll get notifications if I ever post anything in the future. All right, guys, good luck. See you soon.